Let me read just a little bit from the beginning of the book. This, to me, is the most important thing about organizing. Power is how you get things done. Power is how you change things and make things happen. There are two forms and sources of power. The first is lots of organized money. That is the kind of power the financial elite have used to bring the rest of us to our knees. The other source and form of power is lots of people, organized, mobilized, united, and taking action. That's what will save the ordinary American. Lots of ordinary Americans working together. The consequences, maybe you are out of work as you read this. Surely you know someone who is. Maybe a family member or a close friend. The dimensions of this tragedy are something most of us have not seen during our lifetime. Something like 1 in 5 American workers is officially unemployed, is among the so-called underemployed, or has given up on ever finding work. 1 in 5, 20% of us. The consequences of so many people out of work are millions of American families can't make their credit card payments. Foreclosures and underwater mortgages are becoming the rule rather than the exception. 1 in 8 Americans is on food stamps. Retirement dreams have become retirement nightmares. Our decade of disaster has caught up with us. The first decade of the 21st century, the last decade, brought 0 job growth. How bad is that? Every decade since World War II has ended with at least 20% more jobs than it began with. And the last decade had 0 job growth. Income for working and middle-class families has been stagnant since 1980. Since 2000, that income has actually declined. Put another way, during the decade of disaster, America officially stopped working for ordinary working Americans. Instead, America worked only for a handful of unbelievably rich, unimaginably powerful individuals. Jobs went offshore, factories were closed, debt replaced paychecks, and tax breaks went to the super rich. We didn't just fall into this mess. For the last 30 years, America's working families have endured an assault by the financial elite specifically designed to slash our wages and benefits, lower our standard of living, and shift wealth and power from those of us in the middle and at the bottom to those at the top. So here we are, in the middle of the biggest economic disaster most of us have ever seen, with 2 big jobs on our hands. First, we need to get Americans back to work. Second, and maybe most importantly, we need to get America back to work for working Americans. We can't do one without doing the other. How do we turn things around? We must begin by recognizing that our economic problems are the result of intentional, sustained, strategic public policy. Bad public policy. But the good news is that in a democracy, people can change public policy. That's what this book is about. We must understand and then act. The first part of this book lays out the economics behind the decade of disaster, and then comes the action part. Just how bad is it? We have the greatest inequality since 1950s? No. Since the 1940s? No. The greatest income and wealth inequality since the Great Depression? No. The greatest income and wealth inequality since 1929, the beginning of the Great Depression? No. We have the greatest income and wealth inequality in this country that we've had since the beginning of the 20th century, that we've had in 100 years.